Welcome back to another review of Dexter New Blood. This week, episode 7, Skin of Her Teeth. Now, like every week, I'm giving 3 big yays and then 3 big nays. This week, more than kind of any other week, I've found that a lot of my big yays have elements of big nay in them, and vice versa, which really confused me, as if a show could be any more complicated or more nuanced than some idiot categorizing everything into big yays or big nays. Anyway, let's do this. Big yay number 1. Harrison reveals he has the dark passenger. Tacked on to the end of this episode as if they were like, oh, that's right, Harrison's like one of our main characters. We forgot to put him in this episode with anything meaningful happen. He's got a knife and he's trying to kill all those jocks from last week. So Harrison gets ambushed by all the jocks from last week who are like, remember us? We're the rival wrestling team. We're here to beat you up, Harrison. And then Harrison's just like, whoosh, ha, 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 ha. And he's just cutting them like a crazy maniac, like he's bloody Zorro or something. It was insane. I was like, whoa, Harrison, you've got to calm down, dude. Someone's going to see you. Someone's going to know you're a psychopath. Luckily for him, his father, serial killer, who's way better at being like chill and hidden, stops him and he's like, you jocks, you wrestling jocks, you get out of here. Scamper away. And they're like, whoa, and they run away and stuff. We're at a precipice right now. I thought we were at that precipice like 5 episodes ago, but we're at it now. Harrison has gone far too crazy with his dark passenger. Something's got to give. And finally, something gave. Harrison's like, you're right, I'm a serial killer, I'm a monster, I'm a psychopath. And he doesn't say dark passenger, which is fine, but like he's essentially admitting he has the dark passenger, he remembers Trinity, he remembers everything, all this stuff, since he listened to that podcast. Podcasts. Who knew they were so powerful? Finally, we come to the moment we've been waiting for since essentially the start of the season, or at least episode 4, when it's properly revealed that Harrison has the dark passenger, where Harrison's like, I have the dark passenger. Cuts to Dexter, and we're like, say you do too, say it, Dexter. And Dexter goes to open his mouth, and then Harrison's like, hey friend, I'm gonna catch a car ride with you, and just leaves. And once again, the show proves that it's really good at setting up ideas and like themes and concepts, and then when it comes to actually having the moment and, you know, doing something with them and actually like playing with that material and like really sinking their teeth into it, like the episode title. They just don't. It's like they don't actually know what they want to do. Like they don't know what the scene's going to be. And I'm really afraid we're not going to actually get any material with Dexter, father and son, serial killering this dark passenger and him teaching him Harry's code or trying to explain it at least. And all these interesting and amazing things that could come with them both knowing the truth about each other. And now, at best, we have like 2.5 episodes. But no, because this episode ends with a cliffhanger where Dexter's like, well, I guess I'll tell him next week. And then when it cuts minions, just like, gotcha! And there's like, some like kind of sounds over the, you know, blackout cliffhanger. Oh! But it's like, who cares about that? Who cares about Kurt and his minions and all that stuff? We're here for Dexter and Harrison and that whole thing. I mean, at this point, you've really built up to that moment. And then to suddenly be like, maybe we'll deal with it next week. Probably in another tacked on, you know, final scene. And then really that means there'll be like 2 episodes left to actually deal with it. Whereas at the end of episode 4, I was like, oh, cool. The whole back half of the season will be these two figuring each other out. Father and son, serial killers. There's so much interesting stuff they can do. And now it's just like, I don't know, are we going to get any of that? And it just feels so like, Speaking of like, we get Trinity, finally, John Lithgow, in a little flashback scene where Harrison's like, I remember everything. And we see Trinity in new footage, and he's just like looking down at Harrison. Yet Harrison's point of view is a little baby. And he's like, don't worry, your daddy will be home soon. And it's like, oh, John Lithgow, you're the worst man in the world. The worst man in the world. But I just so captivating to watch. But then I was suddenly like, oh no, I heard that he was cast in this season. So I kept thinking like, oh, we're going to get like a bit of a Harry's ghost, Deb ghost kind of situation with Dexter. Or better yet, with Harrison. Harrison could have his own version of the Harry ghost. But it's Trinity, the murder of his mother. And I'm just like, oh, that's going to be so exciting and terrifying and amazing and horrifying and just incredible and morbidly fascinating and so interesting and all the words. It's going to be all the words. But now it's like, oh no, is it just like a random cameo and a tiny little flashback? For 3 seconds? Please tell me it wasn't that. Please tell me. Please! I just want more John Lithgow in my TV series. Is that too much to ask? Dexter New Blood. Please tell me it wasn't just that cameo. Oh my lord, I just want more John Lithgow in my life, even though he is literally playing the worst man who ever lived. Oh well, I guess I can just go back to season 8 and watch Zach. Remember Zach? Yeah, the most memorable character in Dexter. Somehow that plot with Dexter and Zack and him training him with the Harry's code, but maybe it's too late to have the Harry's code and, embedded into his serial killerness. Remember that plot? I bet you don't. Well, that's now going to be better than whatever they're going to do with Harrison, which is, frankly, a travesty and heartbreaking. And you know, I didn't even hate Zack that much. It was fine. It just kind of ended too soon because of the brain surgeon. Let's not get started about the goddamn brain surgeon. What am I doing? Big yay, number 2. The titanium screw reveal. Last week, Kurt had his kill cabin finally exposed, and now Dexter and Kurt kind of have 2 showdowns. One at his restaurant and one at the jail cell. Both these scenes were really exciting and interesting. I really like it when Dexter has a moment where he just sits down with the serial killer of the year, or even the serial killer of the week or whatever, and they kind of have like a dialogue, showdown, spar-off kind of moment where they both kind of, suss each other out and kind of, just a bit of a kind of an arm wrestle of dark passengers, if you will. And I really, really enjoy that. It's not really, it's not as good as the original Dexter series did it. Like, the standouts for me was it just first comes to mind is like Isaac and Dexter in season 7. They have some spectacular ones where it's all out in the open. They can't, do anything too much, but it's just the way they, deliver the dialogue at each other. And it's just building to that moment later when they'll be more hidden and dark where they can really kind of come at each other. It's really not as good as that. It's really not as good as the best of OG Dexter, but at least finally we're getting some of that kind of classic Dexter stuff where him and Kurt finally do sit down and he has that serial killer versus serial killer moment. And Kurt reveals that he knows Dexter killed his son Matt, but he doesn't say it, he just gives him the titanium screw, and Dexter kind of figures that out later, and it's just kind of all really interesting and fun. It's kind of really building everything up, and I really liked all of that stuff. The jail cell scene was really, really cool, although I do kind of think it would have been really interesting, before it was revealed that Kurt kind of gets away on his own. When Kurt's kind of in prison, I thought, I'd really like Kurt to force Dexter to get him out of prison. Otherwise, he'll expose that he killed Matt or something like that. So they're kind of teaming up, very quickly before they're going to, fight at the end. So I thought that'd be really interesting to kind of force them to team up because he hates Kurt so much. But they didn't end up doing that. But still, it's really good to see them go, sparring, and it's all kind of building up finally. Kurt still isn't really my favorite serial killer of the year. Definitely on the low spectrum compared to some of the OG Dexter ones. I mean, it's a tall order to beat, the likes of Trinity, Eye Struck Killer, and all those guys. Big yay, number 3. Kurt's ritual origin story. This week, while blaming his father for all his supposed crimes, we find out Kurt's origin story. He reveals all the reasons behind his ritual, and we kind of get answers to pretty much everything. We get some flashbacks with it as well, and we find out pretty much everything about his dark passenger. We get the reason that he watches the women beforehand due to his father beating them, doing all these awful things to all the sex workers he'd bring back into the truck, and he'd kind of watch it through a lens, so he's kind of seeing it from a different room, I guess. So I guess it's that. And then we find out why he needs them to run away, and he shoots them with a sniper rifle. And it's all kind of just it's because of a thing that's exactly the same as the thing. And I don't know, I was really hoping for more kind of a humanizing, sympathetic kind of angle to take and to be able to get from it. And I know, I'm not saying that I want to be I'm on Kurt's side now. I totally forgive him for all his horrendous crimes. It's no. We're going to hate Kurt. We're going to love when Dexter gets him on the kill table and stabs him and all that stuff. But I just really wanted to kind of add another dimension to Kurt. He's really just an angry brute, and he's not that interesting. And a lot of the really good villains in Dexter have always kind of just had a little bit more, had something that really kind of adds at least a sympathetic lens where you don't agree with them, but you just understand in some level where they're coming from. And his past traumas didn't seem so dramatic and so horrible and so heartbreaking and awful where I'm like, well, he's doing the wrong thing, but I can see why he's come to this point. It's just no, it's just I don't know, when Iris just starts running away, he's just bang! And then he seems to get a thrill from the fact that he shot her, but it seems so premeditated that he shot her, and just when she gets in the truck, it's something's really off already, and just, I don't know, all of the origin stuff didn't really kind of hit me the way I wanted it to. It didn't really work to give him another dimension. It just kind of went, yeah, so he shoots people and makes them run away because at one point, a woman ran away, and he shot her. And it's okay. Maybe I'm the idiot for thinking it would be more than that, but I don't know. I'm why are they in the room? Why is it a hotel room? Why is it so non-sexual? Why did he freak out that it was so sexual? And it's because he watched his father beat people while having sex with them. And I'm okay. So he's kind of done the adverse opposite, where he's like, sex, oh no, oh. But we haven't ever got anything else with like his wife or anything where, you know, maybe he's celibate and he had to fake it to get her pregnant to have Matt, you know, so he kind of like looked normal. Like the way Dexter had Rita as a girlfriend to kind of fit in with the society or anything like that. And it doesn't feel like we're going to get anything like that. So I don't know. I just feel like a bit like, oh, that's it? Okay. I don't know. Sure. So yeah, we don't get any kind of uncomfortable wrinkle of sympathy for this awful, horrendous character or anything that makes it kind of more interesting. He's just kind of a big angry brute that locks women in rooms and shoots them in the back, so I cannot wait for him to die. Apart from him being a great actor, the role has been rather underwhelming, unfortunately, and it's just a bit like, meh. Also, his first kill being Angela's long-lost best friend Iris just feels really obvious, really on the nose, and just really like, of course it was. Of course it was. Like, why would it be anything more interesting or more complex? The whole plot just feels like it's being wrapped up so nicely, so neat and tidy. And it's just going to put a little bow on it and be like, wrapped up like a little Christmas present. There you go. It's all tidy and we can push this season away and it's all done and dusted. Was it just me, or is it really convenient that he used his dad as a scapegoat? Like, they say something like 67% of his DNA matched. I'm like, they're saying that's not enough, but that feels like plenty. That seems like stacks. That's almost 3/4. Like, that's heaps. That's heaps over half. I don't know. I guess maybe the DNA could be his dad's because they're related. I don't really know how DNA works, so maybe that's like a good excuse. Like, he's like, oh, they got my DNA. Well, I'll pretend it's my father's DNA or something like that. But him being like, actually, oh, Iris, oh, actually, I actually remember 25 years ago, she got in a truck with my dad and then was never seen again. That's right. And they're like, why didn't you mention this 25 years ago? And he's like, I don't know. They're like, that seems awful convenient for you to just suddenly mention that now that you're the suspect. And he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I just didn't say it until now. It's not convenient. It's just the truth. What are you talking about? Angela, you're meant to be a cop? What's going on? There are other cops in the room too. Like, how is this? Like, what? Oh, like, what the hell? It's so frustrating and annoying. Like, it's such a flimsy excuse. How is he going to get away with this? It's just like, I don't know. It's just like sometimes the law and the justice system just don't seem to work properly. And it's like monsters seem to just slip through the cracks. It's just like, wish there was some kind of Batman-esque vigilante with a bloodier code and a bloodier origin story that could fix this. I just hope this show can figure out a way to, redeem this plot error, this plot hole, if you will. But yeah, I really thought that it was going to be revealed that Kurt didn't kill Iris and that maybe he still had bodies in those caves or, something sus there or whatever. And he's still the serial killer of the year, but that it was going to be revealed that Iris specifically was actually killed by the Yellow Eyes demon. But that character seems to have completely disappeared, which leads me to Big Nay number 3. Where the hell's Yellow Eyes gone? Yes, he was cast as a minor character, and maybe he was just meant to be there as like the mayor to like set up the town. It's like, we've got the sleazy billionaire mayor, and he doesn't care about this small town, and and all that kind of stuff. But if you cast Yellow Eyes or the Marshal from Lost, take your pick, I expect more. I expect more from Yellow Eyes. I expect him to be more than just a red herring. Before Kurt was revealed to be the serial killer of the year, he was being really, really sus. Yellow Eyes was always saying stuff and just doing stuff that was like really sus, and I'm like, this guy's sus. And he's clearly going to be the serial killer, except I knew it was going to be Kurt. So I'm like, I guess he's a red herring. But then as soon as we found out Kurt was the serial killer, Yellow Eyes has not been in an episode. Of 1 or 2, I understand. He's a minor character. But he hasn't been in the show like since episode 3 or 4. Like, where'd he go? What happened? Did I miss a line where he's like, I'm off to be a billionaire awful man in another town now. Ha ha ha. And he rode off in his billionaire jet or whatever? Like, I don't understand. Where'd he go? Why'd they cast Yellow Eyes if he was going to be like a little cameo just to set up the town? There's so many townsfolk that were just like set up to be characters and they've just completely disappeared off the radar. And yes, none of them were interesting. That was one of my big complaints of the first episode. I didn't like any of them. But he was pretty much the only one I liked. And I know that's literally just because of the casting. But if you cast Yellow Eyes in something, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. I wonder, anyone watching, like if you haven't watched Supernatural or Lost, which are the shows I've seen him from that I love him from, do you even notice him as a character? Do you even miss him? Do you even notice he was gone? Do you think he's coming back? Was he just there as a red herring? I don't know. I'm really disappointed, but that's pretty much just because he's awesome in Supernatural and Lost, and I just want to see that actor be in more stuff. Also, while I'm talking about big nays of people not appearing in the show when they should be, this is now the second week where Angel has not been in the episode. 1 episode is acceptable. 2 weeks, getting mighty close to pissing me off, TV series. And 3, boy, if he doesn't rock up next week, you're going to break my heart, New Blood. You're going to break my heart. Oh, Angel, I miss you. Big nay number 2. We get a cheeky fake out with Harrison where he dresses up like Dexter as if he's ready for a Halloween party dressed as Dexter. And then we're like, oh my God, is he actually going to has he got his own kill room? Like, what's going on? It's the uniform for hosing down the trucks at his job. Clever, very clever. And now part of me is like, that feels very classic Dexter, It kind of reminiscent of like in season 2 where he's like, tonight's the night. And it's going to happen again and again. And we're going to go bowling, yeah. And he's like, I bowl now, baby. It's season 2. And it's like, haha, fun little play on the start of season 1 to the start of season 2. It's like, I mean, it's not nearly as good as that. Otherwise, it would be the biggest yay of all time and not is that a yay or a nay? But I don't really know how I feel about it because on one hand, it is the classic Dexter kind of thing to do like a silly joke, dark humor kind of thing. Be like, he looks like Dexter, but he's just doing a normal job. But on the other hand, when I saw it, I'm just like, cringe. Ugh. I don't know. I'm starting to really want more from Harrison. Like, there were so many really good potential moments and like ideas and themes they were doing with the first half of the season, and now we're getting further into it. I feel like it's not going the way I really want it to go with him, and particularly him and Dexter's relationship. And I think this joke being like the main thing I remember from this episode with him, it's like, okay, we're gonna get to the good stuff, please? Big nay number 1. Those damn Frozen cheap-ass titles. God damn. I mean, every week they annoy me, where you get a little bit of a scene and then it's just like, Dexter, new blood. And I mean, it's been building. It's been building to this point. And I have been noticing it every week, but this week, because we're so close to the end, I was suddenly like, yep, those titles, new blood, they're getting bloodier and bloodier each week. I wonder which intern got paid more than he should have, for coming up with that idea. It really just feels like someone watched Invincible, because Invincible does the same thing where each week it comes up with the title Invincible, and each week more blood is splattered onto the thing until there's almost too much blood to read. But at least in that show, it gets more and more violent. Like each episode, I mean, the first episode's incredibly violent and horrific and gory and disgusting, but somehow the show gets worse and worse, more gory, more disgusting, and the tension itself and like the stakes of everything build and build and build. And so the blood, by the time you get to episode 7 and 8, like the blood covering the whole screen is foreboding and foreshadows the horrors of the show, but it's also just like this intense kind of feeling of like, oh man, we're getting to the end here and it's gonna be a bloody mess. And it absolutely is. Like, can I see that train bit? Blah! But unlike Invincible, that uses the blood, and that's, a strong part of the show. It's a very gory superhero animated show, and so that makes sense, and it's, it's clever. It, like, makes sense with, like, the way the show is building, and, it just makes sense. Whereas in Dexter New Blood, it's like, what has been building up? What has been getting more bloody? Like, the Dexter New Blood is getting bloodier and bloodier, and it's like, but the show hasn't been getting more violent, more extreme, more, like, horrific. And I was kind of like, oh, but maybe it's kind of like a bloody version of like, like a boiling point, like a blood pressure thing where it's getting redder and redder and redder and redder, and then ding, it gets to the top. But there's been no rising tension in this show. There's been no rising sense that the Bay Harbor Butcher is going to be found out. There's been none of that stuff. So that doesn't make sense either. Maybe that was the intent of the show. Maybe it's a bad show then, if that was the intent, and that's what they're going for with the title. But to me, it really just feels like, an intern on his first day was like, have you guys seen Invincible? It's like more blood on every title. What if we did that for the New Blood thing? And then they're like, yep, cool. I can just add a little bit more red onto the image. That'll take me 45 seconds each week. Perfect. I mean, I literally spent 3 seconds making these giant, frozen, awful titles that, anyone could make. I mean, I can't make it, but I have no editing skills. I don't even have Photoshop. I'm sure they at least have Photoshop for the editing crew of Dexter New Blood. I mean, they must, right? The most annoying part of this is 14-year-old me would have absolutely loved this, I reckon. Like, oh, more blood. Oh, it's growing. Oh, there's more bloody stuff. Oh, that's so cool. That's, oh, it's so stylish. Oh, more blood. But you know what? I'm almost 30, and so therefore, cringy as hell. Oh my God, I'm almost 30! Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, all the bloody things, and check out my other podcasts, Two Brothers, One Pilot, Top and Tail, and Spoiler Talk. Links in the description.